Well, good morning. Beautiful day today. Supposed to get up into the 80s, so I want to get out here in the morning and start working on this before it got too hot. I did a couple of things off camera because they're kind of the simpler things, so let me just show you. I put on one of the new brake levers that has the cutoff for the. I'm coming over my scanner. Hold on. Okay. I put on one of the brake levers that has the automatic shut off, so when you apply the brake, it'll shut the motor down, and that's hooked onto the front brakes. The reason I'm not doing this brake lever for the back brakes is, let me take you around here. The back brakes has this button right here, and what that does is when you pull the brakes, I'm not going to be able to do it one-handed, I don't think. When you pull the brakes, you can push that down. Oh yeah, it went down part way. What it does is it's like a parking brake. Since you don't have a kickstand on the trike, if you put it somewhere, park it somewhere that has a slight incline or decline or whatever, you have a potential of it rolling. So it has a parking brake. I did put on the throttle and the hand grips. Other than that, that's all I've done so far. So I've got to figure out how to flip this bicycle upside down. I don't want the fenders getting all smashed up trying to do it, so I'm going to do it off camera and hopefully be right back with you. In just a couple of minutes here after I get this over upside down, so we can start working on getting the tire off. And oh, wait a minute, let me take you over here. One more thing first. Okay, before you get started, you want to disconnect your front brake so the calipers or the brake pads things here will be out of the way to slip this tire out and slip the new one in. So I'll do that before I flip the bike over, and then we'll get right back to you before we get started doing anything else. Alright, well, we got the bicycle upside down. It is resting on those back fenders. I'm afraid it's going to bend them up a little bit, but don't have a whole lot of a choice. Okay, we loosened up the brake cable for the front brake, so we can get those out of the way. Now we got to loosen up. Sorry about the overkill on the wrench, but it's the only one I have that'll fit, that's big enough to loosen these up. Anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to loosen these bolts and take this tire off. And then hopefully slip that new one right into place. Tighten her up and get it all situated. There are some washers on this that I'm going to probably take off and put on the other one, because it has some little washers that go into holes here, so if the tire does happen to come loose, it prevents it from coming out of the socket there. So okay, we got those loosened up, and there we go. That was easy. Now we're going to take the other one, slip it in here. And when you put this other wheel on with the hub motor, you want to make sure that the wiring is on the, okay. After referring to the book, you want to make sure that the wiring on the hub motor is on the right hand side of the bike. In other words, if you were sitting on the bike and riding it, you want the wire for the motor coming out on the right hand side. Okay, we got the motor and the hub here. Comes with these little protective caps on the nuts. Pop those off. Oh, we gotta take off a tie. There we go. Loosen up your nuts. Oh, there's another tie on the wiring. Snug fit. Alright, well, we got the motor down on here. Our next step, we took off the nut off the left hand side here, and what we have to do is we have to put in what they call a torque arm. And what this does is it keeps the wheel, the hub, from spinning in there, working itself loose. This will keep it nice and tight so you don't have to worry about that happening and your wires getting messed up or anything. So we'll install this, get right back to you. We'll take the other camera over here and show you where it goes and what it looks like. Okay, well, there's going to be a slight delay. This torque arm, this little tiny hole right here, doesn't fit the bolt that goes in to the forks. So I'm going to have to drill this out, which is a bummer because my drill's dead, so it's charging up right now. We'll go ahead and come back to this in a little bit. Well, while we're waiting for the drill to charge up so I can drill that hole out a little better, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down for now, flip the bike over, because I can always put that piece on after I get everything else buttoned up and put together. That way it'll save us some time. So what I'm going to do is tighten this down. I'll tighten this side down good, and I'll just snug the other side down where the torque arm has to go. Like I said, sorry about the overkill on the wrench here, but okay, that should be good for this side. And this side I'll just give it enough so it holds on there. Okay. Now, I don't know if I told you before, this is a 26-inch, 48-volt, 1000-watt. Now, what I wish they would come up with is something like this that you can, when you're not using the throttle and it's spinning, it would regenerate and send juice into the battery, because where I live there's a lot of up and downs to get into town. So it'd be nice to be able to generate a little bit of power while you're going down those hills and prolong your mileage or the distance that you can travel. Okay, well, I'm going to shut this off. I'm going to turn this over and we'll start hooking up some of the other items and stuff. Okay, what we're going to start doing now is taking and tightening up or tidying up some of the wiring and stuff using zip ties. we're going to take the motor wire up along here. We'll zip tie it probably in 3 places on the fork, and then also with the cable for the brake release. We're going to take them up here and then run them down along where the cable for the back brake runs. We'll run it right along there and back up to the back. So just take your zip ties, take your first one and just loosely put it on there for right now. Oh, I left all the other ones over here. Okay. And then after we get the wiring all situated, then we'll go ahead and tighten them down. Okay. Okay, starting at the bottom, we'll go ahead and tighten this one up. Come up to here. Tighten that one up there. And then we'll call them all the way up here, and we'll tighten this one up here. There we go. Now when you start coming down here, you want to take and make sure that you don't put a kink in it. You want it tight, but you don't want it to where if you turn your handlebars, it's going to pull the wiring. So you want to leave a little bit of gap there and then come down from there. Okay, we're going to shut this off for a second, start wiring that. And the one for the cutoff, what I'll do is I'll come straight down the handlebar. We're not going to zip tie it to the handlebar because we got things we got to mount back on here and we don't know exactly how that's all going to situate yet. So what we're going to do is we're just going to skip there. We'll come down and join this cable down here. Okay, what I did up here on the handlebars was I just used a twisty tie, you know, like you get off your bread wrapper, just to keep the cutoff cable from the brake in place so I know how much slack I need. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the cable from the motor and the cable from the cutoff, and I'm going to use wire wrap. I don't know if you've seen this. It looks like a snake with a circular cut all the way down it. And what we're going to do is we're going to start right up here at the top and just start wrapping these wires together just to kind of keep them nice and neat looking. And this is going to take quite a while to wrap this, so I'm not going to bore you with it. I'll come back once we get this all wrapped up here together and show you what it looks like. Okay, well, I got all the wires from the front of the bike wrapped up. I wanted to show you that. Okay, we got the one coming from the motor up here. We got the one coming from the brakes. And we got the one coming from the throttle. And here's the wrap. And it's a little time consuming sitting there wrapping this all up. And it terminates at all the plugs and stuff. And where we're gonna route these is underneath the bike right here. You can see these tabs where the back brake line. We're just gonna take these and we're gonna take some zip ties and tie it to that all the way down, and then we're going to come up and terminate up here. Now the controller I think is going to mount something like that, but I'm not positive yet. We might just set it in the basket for right now. I do want to get rid of the basket, and I want to put a solid box up here with a locking, like a trunk. So, but that's down the road in the future, so we'll see how it goes. Well, let me get that wire all zip tied up underneath there and get it terminating over here, and we'll get back to you in a minute. Okay, here's the bundle of wires coming up the back of the trike. For right now, we're just going to mount, well, we're not going to mount it, we're just going to set the controller there. We're going to start hooking up the wires and go from there. We'll put the batteries in here and give it a test out, see if we got everything hooked up right and see if everything's working. So I'm not going to bore you with plugging in these wires. They're all pretty much self-explanatory because there's only one connector that it can actually hook to over on this side. So we'll get to that and then we'll get back to you in a minute. Well, we got the wires all connected. Let me show you what we did down here. Okay, the only three we really had to hook up was to the motor from the controller, to the throttle, and to the brake. So we got those hooked up. We got the controller in there. We brought the batteries out. What I'm running is 4 12 volt, 12 amp sealed lead acid batteries. Going to be hooked up in series, which will give me 40 volts. Well, actually approximately 52 to start out, 51 to 52 when they're fully charged. So I've already made these jumpers to go from one to the other. You go from positive to negative, positive to negative, positive to negative. And then we'll run from here and here into the controller. So I've got to get my crimping tool and some connectors, and we'll get back to you in a second as soon as we get that hooked up. Alright, well, we got the battery hooked up to the controller hooked up to everything else. Now if everything goes alright, when I hit this button, that full light should come on. Oh, they all come on. Okay, I don't know what that's all about, but I don't think they're all supposed to come on. Okay, well, I'm going to put the camera on the tripod so I can hold this bike up in the air and give it a little throttle and see if it goes. Okay, well, I switched over to the other camera so I can use the lavalier microphone. Alright, well, we got everything set here. Go ahead and push the on button. All three of those lights came on. I believe only one's supposed to come on, but we'll check. Okay, let me lift this up, give it a little throttle. Seems to work just fine. Okay, I'm going to hold in the brake that has the engine cutoff or the motor cutoff over here and try giving it a little throttle. Okay. Now, still got to adjust those brakes. Alright, maybe what happens is all three of these lights are lit. As the battery wears down, maybe the full one goes off. Then the instructions that come with these kits are barely nil, and they're Chinese adapted over into English by somebody that speaks Japanese, I think. So, or Chinese, excuse me. Anyway, the only thing we're waiting for now is my drill to finish charging so I can drill out that hole and get the torque arm mounted on here, and then we'll take it for a quick test ride.